Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting. Here's Gerald Salenti with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Salenti. It's Friday, January 31st, 2020, and here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front, mixed over there in Asia, down in Europe, down in the United States. Gold up, silver up, Bitcoin blip, oil down. What's going on? Dow plummets 600 points in worst day since August as coronavirus fears grow. Wiping out Dow Jones Industrial Averages gain for January. Everybody's worried about the impact of the coronavirus. On Friday, the U.S. declared the coronavirus a public health emergency within the country. Delta, American, and United suspended all flights between China and the United States. So, it's now the state of virus is in 18 other countries, and according to Chinese National Health Commission, 213 deaths out of 1.4 billion people. And from what I'm reading, mostly the chronically ill who get the virus, they check out. 9,692 confirmed cases in a country of 1.4 billion people. It's like, the hurricanes, watch out, watch out. To me, I don't know where this is going, but I think they're overblowing it. So, this is going to hurt the Chinese economy. No question about it. It happened during their Lunar New Year, and that's the time to celebrate, go travel, have a good time, and they're not doing it. Quarantine places. The economy is already soft over there, so this is going to bring it down. No question about that at all. The other big issue here is China is stuck with stagflation, and that means the economy is not growing like they like it to, but inflation's going up. Now, what does that mean? Well, their economy's going down, they're going to have to lower interest rates to juice the economy up. You juice the interest rates, you lower the interest rates, rather, when you need to pump up the economy. So they're going to put more monetary methadone in there. That makes inflation go higher. You should be raising interest rates when inflation goes higher, but now they're going to have to lower them. They're going to be doing the same thing in India and other places too. So, we've noted this in the Trends Journal. History before it happens, before all this happened. And you go look back at your last Trends Journal. So, really, what's going on over here? Is it the coronavirus? Goodbye, Rosie, Queen of Corona? That's bringing us down? Hey, here's from the Financial Times. You ready? This is today. Sell-off worries grow over withdrawal of Fed support. In the months since short-term borrowing costs spiked last September, and the U.S. Federal Reserve stepped in to pump tens of billions of dollars into the financial system. Not tens of billions, over $6 trillion into the repo markets. Officials at the central bank have sought to prepare markets for the day they stop pumping. Fed Chairman Jay Powell on Wednesday put market participants on notice, reiterating that the central bank intended to slow down its interventions later this year when the amount of cash swilling around the system reaches, quote, ample level. Swilling around the system. Monetary methadone, juicing it up for the money junkies so they could keep playing. And they go on to state that there's fear that they may happen when the Fed begins to extract itself, cautioning there could be a sizable sell-off in parts of the market that have seen a lift in recent months. In addition to intervening daily in the repo markets, the Fed has also expanded the size of its balance sheet by buying short-dated treasury bills. And of course, people call that quantitative easing. But you make it sensitive if you call it quantitative easing because you're not allowed to call that anymore. Because they go on to say, Mr. Powell pushed back once again on the idea that such support was akin to post-crisis program known as quantitative easing. So you know what Powell is saying? Bullshit. You got it. So let's take a look at this chart. This is when Powell came out and said they were going to not juice the markets so much. Dow Jones Industrial Average during Fed Chair Powell's press conference on January 29th, 2020. This is from Pam Martins and Russ Martins. They do a great job in covering the Fed. Look at it. Look how the markets are dropping. Nothing to do with coronavirus. Got it? They need the money fix. End of story. So oil prices, down. How come? Coronavirus. Let's read the headline. Oil sees fourth straight week of losses, posts worst month since May, as coronavirus fears weigh. Wait, fourth straight week? Capisce? We weren't worried about this for 4 straight weeks. It's a global slowdown. We've been writing about it in detail in your Trends Journal, History Before It Happens. What's going on? What it means? What's next? The only magazine in the world. So, oil prices fell on Friday, blah, 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 blah. Disruptions in the oil supply chain and travel curbs are expected to weigh on China's economy. Oh, disruptions in supply chains. Oh, yeah, they're not pumping any oil out of there over there in Libya. That should be pushing the price up. There's more supply than demand. There's a global slowdown. They came out with the Chinese factory activity. It faltered in January. Had nothing to do with coronavirus. That's not added in yet. And how come? It's at 50. Anything below 50 is below that, is into recession numbers. So, gold prices. They edged higher on Friday. They're on track for their biggest monthly gain in 5 months. If the coronavirus was really fear, because gold is that safe haven asset, you'd see gold now well above 1,600, and it's floating in that range over there of the 1580s, 1590s, still looking good. Nothing to do with coronavirus. 2% growth is here to stay. GDP constrained by shifting demographics and limited productivity gains. Economists get plenty wrong, but they've been right about one thing. The U.S. economy is stuck in low gear. So they're predicting 2% growth for the GDP of America. That goes back to the last since the Great Recession ended. That's about the average. And you look around the world, the U.S., 2%. France, 1.2%. UK, 1%. Japan, 0.6%. 0.6% in Japan, negative bond yields, negative interest rates, and they can't juice the economy. The Greatest Depression is going to be a worldwide crisis, the likes of which we've never seen before. U.S. growth hits slowest pace in 3 years as consumers flag. Yep, consumers are flagging because they're not getting any wage increases. All the dough's going to the top. Shell to slow payout after profits have nothing to do with coronavirus. And then you read this article and you look at what Shell has been doing. They've been shelling out money. In 2018, the group launched a $25 billion stock buyback program that they promised after its $54 billion acquisition of BG Group in 2016. The bigs keep getting bigger. Again, nothing to do with coronavirus. Buying back the stocks, artificially propping it up, and all the bullshit that Trump shoved down everybody's throat by lowering those tax rates for the big guys. And the money was supposed to go into capital improvements. It went into stock buybacks. Again, you face the truth with the Trends Journal. I could care less who you like, who you want to be, you run in your life. We only call it like it is. You face the truth when you read the Trends Journal. So he said something about Trump that I don't like. Grow up. China fears spur emerging market retreat. Okay, I'm mentioning this because the emerging markets are submerging now with this coronavirus. But you look at the S&P 500 last year, they were up like 22%. The emerging markets, 3.5%. This is going to hit them because the dollar's getting stronger. They're deep in dollar debt. The dollar's getting stronger. Oh, and gold prices are going up, even though the dollar's getting stronger. Gold prices should be going down because the higher the dollar goes, the more expensive it is to buy gold because the dollar is gold-based. So, that's your emerging market story, but a lot more in your Trends Journal will be in next week's. And what else do we have here? Here we go. Big story. Big story. Here it is. This is how stupid the toilet paper of record has become. The New York Times. Look at this. You know why they put this here? Because they don't have reporters to report anything, and they fill it up with bullshit. You got it. Brexit is finally happening. Now things are going to get really complicated. Look at this stupid crap. Anyway, Brexit, stage right. Yeah, remember the whole thing was going to collapse when Brexit happened? Not even mentioned in what's going down in the markets. But this is very important. Now hear this. Now hear this. This is the beginning of the end of the European Union as a strong economic Eurozone. The Eurozone, of course, is different than what the UK was in. The Eurozone is the euro. They still had the pound, but they're in the European market. You're going to start seeing the collapse of the European market and the Eurozone, the currency, as the greatest depression takes place and more countries want their freedom rather than being part of a global plantation. This is a big one. No one's saying what we're saying over here. With the UK gone, it's going to be the FU to you-know-what to the EU. What else do we have here? Apollo and Blackstone built $250 billion war chest. This is important. I'll tell you why, because it all has to do with how we have become plantation workers on the global plantation of Slavelandia. Apollo and Blackstone have amassed a pile of over $250 billion of permanent capital, illustrating how shifting business models have entrenched the power of two of Wall Street's most successful firms. Entrenched the power of two of the white shoe boy, Wall Street's firms. Isn't that great, huh? Two. Buyout funds were pioneered by KKR, co-founder Harvey Kravitz and George Roberts in the late 1980s, and they've often generated huge profits. All right, late 1980s, 1990s, 1990 from, this is a brand new scam. There weren't big private equity groups. There wasn't all this stuff. All the wealth is concentrated on the top. And that's why you see the New World Disorder, France, Hong Kong, Lebanon, Algeria, Chile, Ecuador, Peru, Colombia, one after another, the people taken to the streets, and we got to bow down to the bigs and how they pumped them up. And what else do we have over here? Trump signs North American Trade Pact. The bipartisan U.S. International Trade Commission said the deal will produce a tiny gain in U.S. GDP, a boost of 0.35%. You know what that is? More Trump.
Bullshit.
You got it. Because they go on to say that Mr. Trump said Wednesday the pact would boost GDP by 1.2%, without citing a particular study. The U.S., they go on to say, they're going to create 76,000 jobs, and they fail to repeat what the study said. Because over in Mexico, Lopez Obrador fails to end Mexico's slowdown. Mexico's economy contracted for the first time in a decade in 2019. The IMF earlier this month trimmed 2020 forecast to 1%. Barclays brings it down to 0.6%. So I'm mentioning this because when the greatest recession hits, things are already going down. Hey, you think you got a migrant problem now in a country near you? Ain't seen anything yet. Homeless problems? Woof. India lay out plans to revive stuttering economy. Has nothing to do with goodbye, Rosie, queen of coronavirus. Nothing to do with it. Trying to dump more money into the system as they continue to slow down, and again, they're in stagflation. So that means they're going to lower interest rates as inflation goes higher, making a bad situation much, much worse. And what else do we have here? More troops added to list of injured in Iraq attacks as we look at global economic and geopolitical issues. So they lied to us. They said no troops were hurt. The number is now up to 64. And President Trump, when he was in Davos last week, he said, I heard they had headaches. Isn't that great, huh? Isn't that great? The Defense Department said on Thursday that 64 troops have sustained traumatic brain injuries, headaches. Again, they lied. They said there were no injuries from the attack. But people won't remember that. They just buy.
Absolute bullshit.
Yeah, like the Afghanistan papers. People don't even know that stuff came out back in December. That said how the government, the Pentagon, Washington, and the low-life politicians keep lying to us about what's going on in Afghanistan, and how the generals say they didn't have a clue on what to do. But don't forget to salute as they steal our money to murder other people. Don't you love it, huh? Pompeo calls Chinese Communist Party the central threat of our times. This is our U.S. Secretary of State, Pompeo. When you allow the information of your citizens or the nation's citizens to transit a network that the Chinese Communist Party has a legal mandate to obtain, it creates risks. While we still have to be enormously vigilant about terror, there are challenges across the world. The Chinese Communist Party presents the central threat of our times, he said. How great it is, huh? Now they're going after the Chinese. Now they're teaching us to hate those commies, just like they did in the Vietnam War. Yeah, I was prime draft age back then. Hate those commies. Before you know it, those dominoes are going to keep falling. And it'll be on the shores of California. But hey, then Bill Clinton brought China into the World Trade Organization. It was okay they were commies because all the corporations took all our jobs, about 4 million of them in manufacturing, and brought them over to China to get the stuff made cheap. That was okay. But now as things are reversing, it's go after the Chinese. And here we go. UK police to use facial recognition despite accuracy and privacy concerns. Wait a minute. He was talking about the Chinese. Oh, and they're doing it in the United States too. Yeah, those lousy Chinese. London's police will start using live facial recognition on the capital streets, ignoring concerns from data regulators and human rights groups over the highly invasive and often inaccurate biometric technology. They go on to say that the studies that they've done, it worked correctly 8 out of 42 times. 8 out of 42 times, but these tough police guys, they'll harass everybody with this stuff. Oh, I can't say harass. I didn't mean it like that, so take it easy. I can't say abroad anymore either. Nothing's happening abroad, it's happening a mail. So, this is big. Because look how the police are becoming so militarized. You keep reading one story after another. Breaking into houses, wrong addresses. Shooting people with stun guns. As we commit more and more murder overseas, and people support the murder, we support the troops. It's not the troops. These are just victims. It becomes more and more violent at home. Libya fighting resumes after brief lull. Again, go back to your Trends Journal. Arab support for peace plan marks a shift. It shows over here how this is Trump's new so-called peace plan that lets Israel steal all the land they want because it said so in the good book, or their good book. And how before the Arab nations would be against this, but because they're now doing business with the United States, and that triangle of the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Israel pointing out Iran, now the hell with the Palestinians, they're not supporting them. The important element of this piece over here is that they do not mention in one of the lines that what Israel is doing and what Trump has approved for them to do, to steal more Palestinian land, is in violation of international law. Capisce? Hey, but we could break the international law because we're one of those other countries that follows the United States breaking international law. And what else do we have over here? As senators return to Washington, stand-ins become main attraction in Iowa. And because of the stupid impeachment thing that's going on, it's a total waste of time. The Senate's not going to vote to impeach Trump. The senators got to be there. So they're sending out different people. And this, the point that I'm making here, could you imagine spending all of this time in Iowa, month after month, week after week, day after day, to win the primary that's coming up? How sick these people are that they want to gain power, that they waste their lives putting on this stupid freak show, just part of the presidential reality show. And then finally, country music is dead, said Loretta Lynn. She trashes modern hits. I think it's a shame to let this type of music die. I don't care what kind of music it is, rock, country, whatever. I think it's a shame to let it die. And I'm here to start feeding it. She's 87 years old. I mention this because music was one of America's greatest exports. From ragtime to swing to rock and roll to Motown. And now it's no town. Oh, you got your rap? Guess what? Don't want to hear it. Got my own rap. I love the quality of what American music used to be. Oh, they used to play instruments too. I know you could do it all technologically. Yeah. Ain't the same. Doesn't have a soul. And that's what America's lost. Its soul. It's been taken over by the geeks. King James Bible got it wrong. Not the meek shall inherit the earth. The geeks have inherited the earth. Could you imagine a drop of boogie or an ounce of jive in the boy Cook from Microsoft, or whatever the Apple? Or, oh, I forgot Gates. Oh, yeah, there's a hot cat. Oh, I forgot about Zuckerberg. Yeah, take a look at him, and that's where America's gone. Tight, and nothing from the soul of passion. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's Trends in the News.